Brandon, why don't you come out here and get this Halloween spectacular going?
I don't know if I really want to be on camera like this, computer.
We really do need to get this show going. I got a thing later.
God damn it. Fine. Oh, hello ghouls and goblins, and welcome to Scary Games to Play in the Dark Halloween Spooktacular. I'm your host, Count Gilligan, and I meant to dress up like a normal vampire, but someone got the wrong costume.
You said you wanted to be a vampire, so I got you a vampire costume.
I'm pretty sure I said TV horror host vampire. I sort of just look like Edward Cullen.
Maybe if Edward Cullen was a stringy-looking motherfucker.
You know what? I'm still technically a vampire, and technically a host, so we can make this work, right? Anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. We got a very spooky episode for you all today, going through some of my favorite games to play in the scariest month of them all. I tried to pick a good mix of 7 different titles that would shock the senses, including some of my all-time favorites, forgotten classics, and even a couple that maybe you don't see coming. As always, remember to like the video if you like what we do, subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and welcome, travelers, to the Scary Games to Play in the Dark Halloween Spooktacular episode of The Shit You Care About. Number 7, World of Horror. If you remember sitting in your mom's basement and listening to eerie PC sound card noises while playing some weird adventure game, you're in luck. A little bit of roguelike, a little bit of HP Lovecraft, and a little bit of anime shonen stuff going on, and you got yourself a stew. If you haven't been keeping an eye on indie gems in the year 2020, you surely are missing out, because World of Horror is easily one of the best titles to come out this year. Number 6, Dead Rising. Alright, so if Resident Evil is the steak of video games, Dead Rising is sort of like your favorite fast food. It's a little sloppy, surely rushed, and very cheap. But you sort of like crave it late at night, you know, when you just sort of want to dick around and kill some zombies. Seeing how this game came out quite a while ago now, I imagine there's a lot of people out there who probably are aware of what the Dead Rising series is, but aren't really aware of where it came from. Well, it's pretty janky and has so many tutorials you want to blow your brains out in the first 10 minutes or so. It is fun as fuck and has charm flowing straight out of its butthole. The story is really nothing to write home about, but you're literally playing George Romero's Day of the Dead in a mall. It's fucking rad. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised nobody else has taken to making games in malls more. That's like the perfect setting. I specifically remember as a kid, I would play the demo over and over and over because they'd allow you like an hour in the mall just to do whatever you wanted, and you can get a lot of shit done in an hour. Even as an adult, I'm kind of realizing that this game even has sort of some roguelike elements to it, where the time mechanic forces you to have to get things done before your 72 hours is over. On top of that, saving other people inside of the mall and facing off against insane nut jobs trying to kill you, it really makes for a really sweet package. This game is pretty old at this point. You can pick it up for pretty cheap just about anywhere, and if you're really looking to get into the Dead Rising series, this is a great place to start. Number 5, Boktai. If you were like me as a kid and you were always looking for the coolest Game Boy Advance games to play, you're in luck. At this point, it's probably going to be pretty hard to find this game just about anywhere, so if you really want to play it, I highly recommend just emulating it. You didn't hear that from me, by the way. Because this is one of the most unique games on the Game Boy Advance, in my opinion. It sort of has a Castlevania feel with the setting. You kind of fight vampires and zombies, ghouls, all that good stuff, but you actually play as a little boy named Django, who happens to be a vampire hunter. The little twist there is that he uses a solar gun to fight all these enemies. That's right, back in the day, on the Game Boy Advance cartridge, they actually had a little sunlight sensor so you could physically charge your in-game gun in the actual sunlight. I know that sounds like a really weird gimmick, but it actually was pretty neat. Obviously, that created some serious issues trying to play the Game Boy Advance in direct sunlight because the backlight on those things was god-awful, and the original Game Boy Advance didn't even have one. The game itself has sort of a 2D isometric feel to it, and you kind of go around blasting enemies, finding items, and then beating bosses. Definitely has a very classic monster movie feel, or even kind of reminds me of Castlevania. It is a Konami game after all. That being said, don't let the kitty visuals get you down. This game is surprisingly complex and looks really good for a Game Boy Advance game. Oh yeah, and one last thing, Hideo Kojima produced this game, so if you are at all a fan of Hideo Kojima, definitely want to check this out. Number 4, Disco Elysium. I know what you guys are thinking. Disco Elysium is definitely not a horror game, and doesn't even look like it has any horror elements in it, and that's where you'd be wrong. Haven't you ever seen a Dario Argento film, you uncultured swine? This game reeks of surreal, weird horror. Sure, on the surface it seems like a hard-boiled detective story in France where you, a drunkard detective, attempts to solve a mystery of a man hanging from a tree, and it turns into so much more than that. If you like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, or like I said, any weird Dario Argento films like Suspiria, you will totally be in to this psychedelic experience. Number 3, Dead Space. So, Dead Space was one of those games that came out at the perfect time for me. I want to say it came out in about 2008 or 2009. I was just becoming a teenager and getting into horror, and this game really spoke to me. Being sort of half sci-fi, half horror, with a bunch of alien references going on, this was right up my alley. Now, in recent years, especially since EA has kind of dropped this series, and maybe the last couple games in the series were not exactly the greatest, this game really came on super strong back in the day. I even remember watching the advertisements for this, and they all hinged on making moms and grandmas actually play the game and be horrified by it, and my teenage brain at the time just absolutely ate that shit up. Now, when it comes down to it, it really is just an evolution of what something like Resident Evil 4 was doing, but they really take it in their own direction and kind of put their own unique spin on it, and don't just give you that same old sci-fi alien experience that you think you're going to be getting. Throughout the story, you will be literally put in the shoes of engineer Isaac Clarke, who is just a regular old dude in a spaceship full of creepy-ass monsters. And the emotional hinge there is that you're looking for your wife, who may or may not be eaten by these things. This really was one of the last great EA games that they published, in my opinion, maybe other than like Mass Effect. And it's a pretty big shame that they still aren't going strong with this series to this day. Number 2, Danganronpa. Alright, so this is another one that I think a lot of people maybe wouldn't see as like a strict horror game. That being said, this game gets pretty graphic and horrific at moments. Not only is the general atmosphere around the school that you're in eerie, it's literally a game about a bunch of teenagers being trapped in a high school together and murdering each other so that they can escape. It's like your classic battle royale situation. Pretty much, if you're into stylish detective visual novel games, this is going to be the game for you. While you sort of play as a vanilla anime dude that you sort of just are supposed to throw your face over, every other character in the game is oozing with personality. Each one of the characters you meet are specially chosen to be at this school because they are the best of the best at what they do. For instance, you'll meet the greatest hacker in the world, the greatest detective, so on and so forth. Slowly putting this mystery together to find out why the fuck you all are here and why this weird creepy bear named Monokuma is forcing you to kill each other. Now, last but not least, my favorite and possibly the scariest game ever made, Resident Evil 4. I know this game is a little bit cliche. I looked at quite a bit of top scary horror Halloween game lists before I made this video because I kind of wanted to divert from the path a little bit, and admittedly this game was on every single one of them. There is a damn good reason for that, and it's because this is not only one of the best games ever made, it is probably one of the best horror survival experiences out there. Not to mention that Capcom has literally taken the formula for Resident Evil 4 and just reiterated on that over and over and over to give us every other Resident Evil that we know of today. I was sort of stuck between this game and Resident Evil 7 because I do think that Resident Evil 7 is scarier. That being said, as far as gameplay and just nostalgia and just utter creepiness, unique setting if you will, this game takes the cake. The game really does just about everything right. It checks all the boxes, amazing boss battles, super buttery smooth gameplay, bunch of different locations that constantly ramp up in intensity. You start off in a weird little Spanish village, eventually a castle, and then an old military base. It gets crazy, while never really relinquishing the horror elements behind the whole thing. Personally, I just feel like this is the perfect mix between the action Resident Evil that we all know and love to hate, and the classic survival horror situation we got from the classic. I mean, this game is even pre-Uncharted and even Gears of War. They practically wrote the book on third-person shooting, okay? Animation is still beautiful, story still hits you at every single point. Genuinely, I don't have enough nice things to say about this game, and honestly, one of the only bad things I can think of about this game is how brown it is. It is very brown, which is sort of a product of its time. I feel like everything in 2005 was just covered in dirt or something. Anyway, I really can't talk about this game highly enough. I know you've probably seen it, heard it before, maybe you've even played it. That being said, Resident Evil 4 takes the #1 spot on my favorite spooky games to play in the dark. Oh shit, almost choked on my teeth there. Ugh.
It would have been a spooky Halloween miracle.
Well, thank God I didn't choke on my plastic vampire teeth, computer. I'll be the one laughing when I suck the silicon from your lifeless terminal. As for all you ghouls and gremlins out there, I hope today's episode gave you a little scare, or even made you a little bit more comfortable in the light of the full moon. Thanks for watching. I'm Count Gilligan, and you were watching Scary Games to Play in the Dark, Halloween spooktacular episode of the shit you care about. Have a kick-ass week, and happy Halloween.